National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, presents a Bravo video event, the Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.
And on today's show, Basic Estate Planning with attorney Lou Shuntage.
And now the host of the Business Insurance Zone, the whiz of the biz, insurance columnist Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right out of Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, attorney from Lincoln Benefit Life, Lou Shuntage. Lou, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
And Lou, I got to say, we were talking about in yesterday's show, we did a lot of things. We got into it yesterday, and I'm thinking, if you saw our show yesterday, you go, oh my gosh, where's the information I'm going to need to follow that? I wasn't taking notes. Don't worry about it. You can ask me for anything we did yesterday on buy, sell, cross purchase, wait and see, stock redemption. How about entities? What's their formations? We have all that information. Just write us, thebiz at brokersalliance.com, or just call us toll free 1-800-290-7226 extension 147, and we'll send it to you. Lou, before we get into the big stuff today, and we got quite a list here to talk about, I want to just touch on one little thing because I kind of thought this was kind of dead. I didn't know how many people are doing split dollar anymore, but I want you to just touch on it, and then we'll get into the main events for today.
Sure. Split dollar is still a viable approach to providing life insurance to someone who needs it, but needs help in paying for it.
Well, before you go say that, I just say usually when I hear a split dollar, everybody says the term market is so cheap. Why are we even talking about it?
Let me give an example of where it really is good. Let's assume an individual has an employee who is medically impaired. And now for that person to go out and buy a policy, they're going to be rated. It's going to cost a lot of money. If we set up a endorsed method split dollar life insurance arrangement, then the way it works is the employer buys and owns a policy of the employee, but says to the employee, I'm going to allow you to name a beneficiary, a personal beneficiary, for part of the death benefit. The rest of the death benefit will come back to me as an employer to reimburse me for what I put into it. Also, I as an employer will own the cash via the contract, but you're getting the benefit of naming a beneficiary for some piece of the death proceeds. The employee has to recognize his income each year via the life insurance protection for which they're naming a beneficiary. Mm-hmm. And they do that based upon Government Table 2001. Mm-hmm. That's an adaptation from the tables they created for group term life insurance under Section 79. Mm-hmm. But the point is this, that Table 2001 does not take into consideration the fact that the employee is medically impaired. All right? So now, an example I had, there was an employee 48 years of age, had a heart condition. The actual premium on the contract was about $20,000 a year or more. The employee recognized his income, the Table 2001 amount on their share of the death benefit, which was close to $1 million, mm-hmm. and they had only recognized a few $100s a year as income.
So, can I repeat to make sure I understood this?
Yes.
So the Table 2001 rates, which the government measures economic benefit, and it is a benefit to the employee,
right.
Even though he was tabled, he only pays the standard rate on the taxation issue.
Under Table 2001,
yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
That's
there's a tremendous
leverage.
benefit.
Yeah. Well, there's a split dollar leverage I would have never thought about. Now, from an estate planning point of view, are we talking about this because the employer, or no, is this the employee's estate plan we're talking about?
Well, I was talking about a situation where there was an employee that our individual wanted to take care of. But if they own a corporation, they could do the same thing with the company for themselves. Mm-hmm. The company could pay the premium. They'd have to recognize the Table 2001 amount as income. But, it's less than the premium the company's paying. But I do really think more of it as, something you do for employees. Mm-hmm. Because if it's a business you own yourself, maybe a little bit of left pocket, right pocket going on there.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of thing that there's a value added if the employee's a rainmaker especially, or maybe a major admin person in your place that's just running the show. Yeah. This is the kind of people you want to really take care of, and you're taking care of not only them, but maybe out of the benevolency of just saying, hey, these guys have been a major player in my corporation. I think I'd like to bless them and their estate.
Sure.
So what's our next up on our list here? We got such a list here.
Yeah, I think one thing about it is the fact that there are non-traditional families in this country, the number of over 11 million people who are not married. Mm-hmm. Most of them are heterosexual couples, but over 1 million are homosexual or same-sex situations. And we have to realize that even in the case of these non-traditional families, there are life insurance needs. Mm-hmm. A person who's let's say the breadwinner dies. What about debts they may have, mortgages, credit card debt, car loans, possibly business loans. there could be a number of other situations where funds are needed. So I'm just pointing out here that if you're dealing with non-traditional families, they've got life insurance needs too.
Well, I'm just thinking about this issue. Let's say we have non-traditional families. You mentioned one segment, the gay population.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, though, because we haven't really changed the estate laws to accommodate non-traditional families. So are there good tactics that we can use for our non-traditional families to help them out, especially people who have what I would call serious estates?
Well, if you got a situation where there are two people who are not married under the federal law, then, and if they are same sex, they are not married under federal tax law, they can't use the marital deduction to postpone any estate tax until the second death, which means, you know, if there's a substantial estate involved, that's a big disadvantage, okay? So those people will need life insurance up front on the first death, okay, to cover the tax on that person.
I think that's a huge, that's a whole new market. I mean, the re-engineering of the way our society looks at family now and passing on to the next generation. But now we're talking about don't even go to the next generation for non-traditional families, and there are a lot of heterosexual couples that are also living together, not married, and the common law may not pick that up. So we need a heads up. That's a whole nother market that we haven't even explored.
Sure.
And I think we should look at it because it's really a underserved market. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
An underserved market. So if you're sitting there going, boy, I have people I know that are in non-traditional families, I'm going to start talking this way because I know I can bring a value to them that could really help themselves, the people they love, and their estate.
Right.
What else you got on your list here, Lou?
Well, I'd like to talk about liquidity needs. You mentioned before the fact that even for those individuals who don't have a federal state tax problem because of the size of the exemption, they may have state death taxes to deal with.
All right.
But it's not just state death taxes. Administration expenses for an estate can run as much as 5 to 8%. Again, liquidity needs for debts, mortgages, you know, business loans, whatever. So we need to think about estate liquidity, not just from the perspective of federal estate taxes, but these other liquidity needs as well.
I just want to mention this. We did talk about this. I can't remember if it was Monday, Tuesday show, but we did talk about the state tax due at transfer. And I just want to say, if you're not playing to this, I wrote an article. It's out on Producer's Web. I think it's out on Agent Navigator, Insurance Forum. I can't remember all the places I distributed that article. If you say, Steve, that article sounds great, that would help support what we're talking about. I think the name, I think I titled it, not estate taxes, but state taxes at death. Yes. And if you want that, just go ahead and write me, thebiz at brokersalliance.com. I'll be happy to send you the article. And if you say, oh, Steve, can I just call in? Because a lot of our guys don't even like to touch their keyboard if they don't want to. Hey, that's 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. And I'll send you the article. Not estate taxes, state taxes.
Right. And keep in mind a life insurance is an ideal vehicle for funding or pre-funding these liquidity needs because, number one, it's cost efficient, and secondly, the money's paid exactly when it's needed on the person's death. I
got to tell you, the leverage of life insurance right now is as great as it's ever been. We are parsing the human condition based on your Chem 24 exam. I mean, think about this. Your cholesterol, your urine never was worth so much. I mean, we are at super preferred, preferred plus, preferred, standard plus, and standard before we even get into substandard cases. And when I saw the last grid I did, think about this. Second to die, single deposit, guaranteed to 120. Think about all the little caveats I just threw in there. That is a 6-to-1 ratio. For every dollar you're putting in, that's a $6 benefit. And by the way, most of the time, if it's set up correctly, a tax-free 6-to-1 ratio. Again, if you want to see, Steve, I'd love to see that grid. Just write me at the show, thebiz at brokersalliance.com, and I'll show you the grid. And I mean, there are two carriers that I'm thinking of right now, outstanding in single deposits. You really get bang for the buck.
Steve, you just made a statement about income tax-free. This goes back to our earlier discussions about business insurance. I want to point out to the audience that there's a section of the code, Section 101J, which was enacted in response to what they call janitor's insurance. These large corporations were going and buying life insurance and rank and file employees.
Wait a minute, they actually call it janitor's insurance?
Well, there's one better. They call it dead peasant insurance.
Wait, I got to write this down. Tell you what is it, janitor insurance?
Yes, or dead peasant insurance.
Or dead
peasant
insurance.
Right.
You're not pulling my leg.
No, I'm not. As a matter of fact, it was so offensive that Congress enacted Section 101J, which was designed to prevent an abuse. Abuse in the sense that, you know, a major company would go out and insure just rank and file employees. Their family would get none of the benefit. In some cases, they didn't even know the insurance was on their life. So to prevent that,
is that like kind of precursor to Stoli?
Well,
kind of.
Yeah, in this sort of that realm of the unacceptable policy-wise.
Well, I just got a title for my next article. Thank you very much, Lou.
Okay.
Dead peasant insurance. That's new to me. Go ahead.
If you have a situation where a company is going to insure an employee, okay, then they have to get the employee's consent to that insurance. They have to notify the employee in writing that they're going to insure the employee, tell them for how much the maximum coverage could be. But the basic idea is that you don't want employees being insured who don't know they're being insured and for how much, where the company's going to be a beneficiary, okay? Now, this is a rather complicated area of law, but I just want them to know that anytime you walk in a situation, if you see there's a company owning a policy on an employee, that company better have that notice and consent form filled out on the employee.
So that's separate from the application.
That's right.
Okay, well, here's another. Everybody's always saying, Steve, I need prospecting tools. I just gave you another one. We're looking for contracts where you come into an entity, a business, right, and you see that there's employees covered. They have the application. Maybe it's a key man. All that thing is all up
exactly.
and up. However, they still need written consent form from the employee separate from the application just for protection. I can't believe that that's not in a carrier app. What you just said, that surprises me that the legal eagles of these carriers haven't figured that out.
Well, they have in a sense that they'll make available model forms that the employer can use. And they should be looked at by the lawyer of the company, okay? But, there are forms that companies have created to facilitate this. But here's the real issue. If they don't have that form properly filled out, that death benefit is taxable income to the extent it exceeds the premiums the company's paid. You don't want that to happen.
Oh, no. I find that fascinating, and again, I'll have to get off this because if I stay on this topic too long, I'll go crazy. That's my next article, Dead Peasant Insurance. I love it, Lou. Okay. What else we have?
Well, what about educational situations? My own daughter just finished college recently, and I don't even want to say what it cost me to put her through school.
You're broke, Lou. We all know that.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yes, that's right. Lou's on our show. He has, and how many children do you have, Lou?
Just one.
I have 6, count them, with the same girl for 38 years. We are broke. We are broke. That's why we're still working into our 60s here.
But, it's really shocking when you realize what it costs to put a child through college. But what I'm getting to is this. Looking at the situation, there's nothing which I think indicates to me it's going to get any better. The only thing I can think of that's accelerating as fast as the cost of education is the cost of medical care, okay? But the point I'm getting to is this. If you have a situation with grandparents who've got wealth and want to be sure that grandchildren are educated properly, they can set up a trust, have the trust buy life insurance on them, and that money's there to help take care of the grandchildren.
Specific for education.
That's right.
So that could be, it doesn't matter what, it could be undergraduate, MBA, PhD, whatever, medical school. It could be all set up, all ready to go. And this is separate from our traditional, like the Hope credits and things of this nature.
Yes.
Wow, I think this is another area we're talking about, looking for little areas where we can walk in and have immediate impact with our client. You're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. You can write us here at the show at thebiz@brokersalliance.com or just call us toll free 1-800-290-7226 extension 147. Lou and I'll be right back after the break after you hear from our premier sponsor, Brokers Alliance. Whether you're a professional planner pursuing a strategic partner or an insurance distributor seeking a national alliance, your business just went into overdrive. Now enter the largest resource of insurance products and services with unparalleled access to a worldwide audience of consumers through the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, who can take your company and launch it into the stratosphere of success. With countermeasures, the most comprehensive carrier intel in the industry, the MASH unit with field triage underwriting and the premium tolerance test, the life insurance financial evaluation, the most rigorous policy review, and Bravo high-definition broadcasting with online social media. Your search just ended. Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant. I'm an insurance columnist, financial color commentator, and interviewer extraordinaire. Well, before going forward with any of the strategies and tactics we talk on this week's show especially, always touch base with your CPA, your tax attorney, and if you're FINRA licensed, your broker-dealer compliance department. You can call me for any of your quotes or questions on life insurance, annuities, DI, LTC, or group pension plans. 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. It's not what I know, it's who I know. And that's why I have Lou Shuntage from Lincoln Benefit Life, attorney at large, with us. He's been with us all this week. You want to review all our shows, hop back out on our site, www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to our homepage, click on the red On Demand button, and it'll put you into all Lou's shows. And we are giving away a ton of stuff on this show. And if you have missed any of the shows, just look at the shows, and anything you want, we'll send it to you. Lou, we were talking, we just ended educational trust, and I always think we did two weeks. Oh no, last 2 weeks of the year, we did end of the year tax planning, and one of the big things we did, and it was really one of our best shows, we did 5 days on building out your practice through through charitable giving.
Yes.
Now, in that show, we talked about all the benevolent ways, all the philanthropic ways you can play on that level, and it's really great. I had email, though, said, okay, Steve, I saw your show. And these are from retail people. I saw your show. I do want to give to my charity of my choice. However, my kids are too happy that I'm willing to unload $3 million. In this case, it was to a cancer research. $3 million, because that's going to short them. How can I take care of that? Is there any way to do that?
Sure.
And you're going to talk about wealth replacement.
Exactly. You make a very good point. Many, many times people want to do something charitable, but they realize by giving something away when they die, or even before they die, that it's going to cut into their child's inheritance or children's inheritance. And that can cause family resentment. But there's a way of dealing with that very effectively, very efficiently, and that's for the parents to establish what's called a wealth replacement trust. It's nothing more than a revocable trust they set up that's authorized to buy life insurance on them, the trustee is. So they will take some of the tax savings they enjoy from some of these various kinds of arrangements. For example, if they're doing a charitable remainder trust, there's a tax deduction involved, cash flow back to the parents. They can be in a better position financially than they were before the arrangement was set up. Or there could be a charitable gift annuity where money's coming back to them and there's a corresponding tax deduction. Anyway, the parents take some of this cash flow that's come from what they've set up that benefits charity and use it to make gifts of cash to the revocable life insurance trust. That trust now buys life insurance on them. When the parents die, that trust collects the death proceeds, and now the children get cash, income, estate, gift, and generation skipping tax-free.
Well, I love this tactic because wealth replacement trusts, and we talked about this, like I said, the last week of our shows in 2011, we did charitable giving, and that was our #1 issue. America is still the most benevolent country in the world. We give more money than any other country by far, and we give to our own charities even the more so. So when you think about this, it's not the heart of our client that's in question. They're benevolent. The question is, but if I do this, will my grandchildren, most of the time, it's not the children, it's the grandchildren that usually will suffer. So we want to be able to see, is there a way to circumvent this, or is there a way to actually make this happen? And life insurance, did you say irrevocable or revocable?
Yes. Well, irrevocable if the parents have any kind of tax exposure, estate tax exposure.
I like this idea because, again, I'm coming into places where I know my clients, there's a bastion of clients that are benevolent. I want to be able to speak to charities, build out, we talked about this at the end of the year, how to build your practice out through charitable giving. This is just another adjunct to that whole show. So in this segment, we're talking about it. And if you want information on this, we do have information on all this, and it's to die for. And we unloaded a ton off our last landing page off that charitable show. So if you say, Steve, I want to know everything you got all in on wealth replacement trust, send it to me. I want to see it. What else you got on our thing here?
Well, we mentioned taking care of future generations of the family. That brings me to my favorite topic, which I think is an idea that's come of age, Steve. For 300 years in America, we had this American dream where generation after generation believes it'll do better than one before, and they've done that. The problem now is that with what's going on, and I want to get into that, but essentially when they asked upcoming generations now, do you expect to do better than your parents? The answer is no. Not only that, they don't expect to do as well, okay?
Wow,
so
is that true? That's a stat out there now?
That's what's going on.
Wow.
And I think that the way to deal with that is for the family to form what is called a dynasty trust or a family bank. And the way it works is that, let's suppose it's the grandparents. They decide they want to take care of future generations. I should begin by saying that there's something in the law that we inherited from England called the rule against perpetuities. And the idea in England was that we shouldn't have trusts last forever. It's better they end after a certain period of time, and then the wealth will pass through society for everyone's benefit. Under that rule, basically a trust could last about 100 years or 3 generations.
So there was socialism back in the day.
Well, a version.
Redistribution. Okay.
Right.
Just make sure I was understanding it.
Sure. And we inherited that as a part of the Commonwealth of England. Well, a number of states in the country have said, no, we don't like that. We think that people should be free to put property into the trust either forever or for some length of time. Either way, no matter where you are in this country, even in some community property jurisdictions have adopted a statute which says basically you can have a trust that lasts at least 100 years or 3 generations. With that in mind, if an individual is wealthy enough that they can afford to give something away for the future, they can set up an irrevocable life insurance trust, make gifts of cash to that trust. Now, when you think how much cash can they give, well, first of all, you have the annual gift tax exclusion, which means for every beneficiary of the trust, you can put in $13,000. If you're married, as much as $26,000 per beneficiary to buy life insurance. But beyond that, we have this year, all right, in 2012, a federal gift tax applicable exclusion of $5,120,000 per individual.
That's colossal.
Which means that you could set a trust up and put $5,120,000 in there, gift tax free. If you're married, you can double that.
Well, let's just stop there because I want to make sure we also own the knowledge on this issue cold. Even if, and I want to make sure I understand this, even if they change the law at the end of the year and we revert back to 1 million unified credit, if I did this on this side of this year, have I just pushed out, if I was married, 10 million plus, and that's done? There's no retro, I changed the law, now I have to change my trust. Do we know any issues like that yet? Or?
Well, there's some discussion among the experts on the possibility of what is called a clawback, that if going forward in the future, they reduce the estate tax exemption below $5,120,000, that there might be an increase in the estate tax down the road that the family pays. But understand this, if you do this, you'll be no worse off than if you did nothing. Because first of all, the appreciation on the money you put in there is not going to be taxed. The appreciation, if we put $5 million into a trust and it buys $20 million of insurance, the extra $15 million is not going to be exposed to tax, all right? So I would say this to you. For those who can afford to do this, okay, this is something worth doing. And the point is that if the trust is set up and it buys life insurance, then when the people who were insured die, the trust collects those death proceeds, and that money is there to take care of future generations. It can be medical costs, educational costs. It can take care of making loans to buy homes or family businesses to be set up. You can buy vacation properties that the family can enjoy. But you've got a one-time now opportunity, all right, to put away as much as $5,120,000 to fund with this trust, or more than $10 million. That's right,
married, yeah.
if you're married. Okay, so I mean, I think that is a unique opportunity that people should take care of while they can. Sure, not everybody can afford to put $5 million in there. Okay, but what if it's $100,000 or $200,000?
No, I see that, and I'm just wondering. I always get scared when I hear you guys like you say, hey, the word clawback. I mean, have we ever actually done that? I mean, have we said, hey, we made this law, now we're going to go back and go retro on you?
This is speculation as to whether or not it can work this way. And as I've said, there are very good reasons for doing this. Even if the clawback thing happened, your family would be better off in the end than if you hadn't done it.
Well, I'm just hoping, that when we look at taxes, and I'm not trying to say I have a crystal ball on this either, but I've noticed at 15.3 trillion in debt and counting, I was on the U.S. clock this morning, I noticed that when you think about the kind of tax bills and everything that we got to raise revenue. I think it's easier to raise revenue on dead people than it is on income tax people. And I'm wondering if there's going to be some modification of the estate tax, which, by the way, if it actually goes rogue on us at the end of the year, we'll be back at 1 million, right, unified credit per person.
Yes. Let me say this to you. The estate tax has come and gone about 7 times in our nation's history. I think that it would be unwise for anyone to assume that the estate tax is going to go away forever. Now, it's possible that Republicans, if they were to take the Senate as well as the House and the presidency, would be in a position to either repeal the estate tax or substantially diminish it. But we don't know what's going to happen. And even if that does happen, okay, the wheel turns, politics change, people come back in, the tax comes back, okay? Particularly when you consider the kind of deficit situation we're in, which takes me to what I think people should consider. I think that people should assume that long-term the estate tax is going to be here. and that what they need to do is to accept some kind of number they think is reasonable as to how the tax might go. That depends on two things. It depends on the amount of the exemption. It depends on the tax rate. Now, yes, come January 1st, 2013, if nothing is done, we're back to $1 million exemption and a 55% rate. The Obama administration has recommended a $3.5 million exemption and a 45% rate like we had back in 2009. That may happen, I'm not sure. But the point is, I think responsible people, when they face uncertainty, what do? They hedge their bets. In the context of estate planning, I think that means pick a number that you think is reasonable and fund for that amount of tax, assuming, let's say, an exemption of $3.5 million, using life insurance through an irrevocable trust. The worst case scenario, if it turns out that your family loses its wealth, okay, so you don't need the insurance money to pay taxes, it's there like a dynasty trust to take care of future generations that have lost their wealth. Okay.
Yeah, I like the word hedge because nobody would debate our issue, but that's why we do balanced asset allocation.
Right.
Everybody understands that we don't put all our eggs in one basket.
Right.
So I like the hedge. Even if we don't need this, I have this money. It could be my family's bank. It could be their legacy.
Right.
It could be this ongoing generation dynasty trust. I think that's a reasonable issue. When I go out, I think I'd like to talk to my clients like that. Well, listen, you can watch this show and all our shows, of course, in HD 1080p right on our homepage at www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to our homepage, just click on the on-demand section. And of course, we're all over the social network with YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course where I tweet, Twitter. I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. Need insurance guidance? Call Brokers Alliance. The Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.